Hey guys, we are back. It is the Rob and Maria Show. And we are here today once again with Dan Lowenheim, who is the Assistant Emergency Management Coordinator for the Department of Public Safety. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for coming back.
absolutely.
Glad to be here.
Well, I wasn't here for the first time you were here, so you are here to talk about emergency preparedness, in particular for people with disabilities. So if you could just recap a little bit about your position and what you do.
Sure, glad to. So again, my name is Dan Lowenheim. I'm the Assistant Emergency Management Coordinator for the Erie County Department of Public Safety.
Okay.
And I've been employed there since 2018. And I have two sets of responsibilities. During day-to-day operations, I work a lot with program and project management and review internal plans, and also assist folks with community planning for their organizations as well. One of the great things I get to do is do community preparedness events and talk to folks like you and other organizations about how to be prepared, whether that's individual preparedness or family preparedness, because we really look at a whole community approach of not only us doing our preparedness piece of the part of all of this, but also the community and the individuals and families also be making sure that they're prepared and trying to share some education on how to be prepared. Mm-hmm. Second set of responsibilities I have is when we do have emergencies and disasters, I operate as a section chief within our Emergency Operations Center. And I look at some of the priorities, the goals, the objectives that need to take place so that we can work with first responders, other community organizations, and the whole community to not only respond to, but also recover from emergencies and disasters.
And that networking is so important with other agencies and organizations.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure if emergency preparedness is important for the able-bodied, it's doubly important for people with disabilities.
Yeah, I think that individual and family preparedness is about understanding and really being prepared for what everybody's individual situation is. And so the preparedness piece that I enjoy talking about is a foundation of generalized ideas on how to be prepared, and then that being a starting point to then understand what needs to take place after that and what people can do to deal with the specific needs and concerns that they have to be prepared as well.
Okay. Now you have a little show and tell here, Dan, and what's all these gadgets and doodads?
Yes, so part of being prepared and individual and family preparedness is about not only having a plan, but building a kit and having a go bag or a kit, whether that's in your home, in your car, or at work, to be prepared for different types of emergencies that go on. Mm-hmm. So what I'd like to do is just explain a little bit about some of the items that I've brought with me and talk about a little bit about that foundational component of basic go kit or plan and kit that can be put together for a home or for a car or for an office or a work location. So I have two styles of bags here. I have a duffel bag that can be more of a family preparedness bag. And then I have a backpack style that can be more of an individual preparedness bag. Mm-hmm. And so all of these are adaptable, and just depending on how many supplies and how much equipment needs to go into that supply kit. So a couple of things with either of these bags that I have is a garbage bag. So understanding that we could be in severe weather, whether that's a snowstorm or a flood, we want to make sure that whatever we have in our kit is protected somewhat from the elements. So it's not necessarily waterproof, but it would be water resistant. And so lining these bags with a garbage bag will help keep the water out of the bags and keep the contents of the bag dry as well.
I would never have thought of that.
Yeah, actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So a few other items I have here would be an emergency blanket. This is a small blanket that somebody can put over themselves, and he helps to keep the heat inside of the blanket area, so that in the very cold weather, this can help insulate somebody.
Oh, it's one of those foil.
It is,
wrap
yes,
blankets. Awesome.
exactly.
Okay, yeah.
So then I have a different style bag, different style blanket here, and this is a wool blanket that would be very warm as well, for different types of elements as well. Now,
Maria wants to know if you have any extras. that
May
you-
I? I need to test that out, please.
so the other thing that I have here is a name tag, and I think it's extremely important to put a name tag on either of these bags or any bag with a phone number, so that if the bag is separated from the individual or from the family, they can be notified as to.
Emergency contact.
Exactly, exactly. So some of the other items I have here. So I have a windbreaker that would be good for rain, and I think that that would be important to make sure that we stay dry during times of severe weather. And then I have a fleece here for colder weather, things like that, but also it's important to have a spare set of clothing in a go bag as well. And so some of the other items I have here, in the winter time, a winter hat and winter gloves. And again, and that's just for the winter, but even in the summertime with the sun and the heat, maybe having a ball cap or a wider brimmed cap or a hat would be helpful as well. Now, I also have some protective gloves in here, because folks that may utilize a wheelchair during a disaster or an emergency may find themselves with some broken glass on a sidewalk or some debris on a sidewalk, and have to roll that wheelchair over that. And having some protective gloves, so that when a wheelchair is wheeled, it protects the glove, it protects the person's hands from some cut glass and things like that.
I always, I kind of cringe when I see those movies of a couple driving down those endless highways like in Arizona or wherever, New Mexico, and I think, boy, if you broke down out there, who knows who's coming when?
Right.
Right,
You know?
and so I'll
I'll
speak
put
to
an
the,
umbrella in
yes.
there, you know.
Yeah.
And so I'll speak to that here in a few minutes with regards to emergency
Okay.
contacts and
Okay.
things like that. So another item that's helpful to have is some water, okay? And packing some bottled water in a go kit is extremely helpful. Also having a snack or some food is also extremely helpful as well. And then a first aid kit is something that would be important to have in a go bag. And this is the one that I use, but there are many different styles. And we don't, with any of these products, we don't necessarily endorse a manufacturer or anything.
Right.
It's what works best for the individual or for the family.
When you're talking about the go bag and all the things that should be a part of it, how many days are you estimating worth of like food or water or whatever?
That's a great question. So typically, we advise folks about 3 days, about 72 hours, and it can even go out further than that. Oftentimes, depending on the systems and the different impacts that are going on, having supplies for a few days is extremely helpful.
Sure.
I also think you can't really estimate how long severe weather or an
Yeah, it's hard to
emergency
know.
would be.
Yeah,
But you
sure.
need to have a few days of, okay, we're good, we're gonna be ready for a few
Right,
days here.
right.
Absolutely.
Protein bars or
Yeah.
whatever,
Absolutely.
You
yeah.
never know how long anything's gonna last.
Well, that's right.
Yes, and so with the thought of snacks or food, so I have a small lunchbox here that's insulated, but this can also be utilized for a toothbrush or toothpaste or soap and things like that that can go in here as well. A flashlight, and we want to make sure that the flashlight works. So it's one thing to be prepared and have the kit, but it's also yet another important concept to be ready. So preparedness is having the supplies, and readiness is making sure that the supplies are actually in working order, maybe having spare batteries with a flashlight as well. I also have a headlamp here, because using a flashlight is great, but being able to have a headlamp gives everybody the ability to use their hands when maybe there's a power outage or a low light situation
I
like
even
that as
consider
well.
that for people in chairs, because hey, it's hands-free, we
Well,
need
sure,
that.
sure.
I never thought about using
And
it.
a
Yeah.
cell phone charger or
Yes,
something
yes.
like that.
So I have a few different chargers
Okay.
here that I have wrapped together as a way to keep this in a kit and keep it organized. So I have a car charger here, I have a wall charger, and then I also have a power bank here, or a portable charger to be able to charge a cell phone
Yeah.
multiple times. And again, with the readiness component, making sure that that the power bank is charged and ready to go, and keeping that charged at all times is extremely important.
Solar power ones too, like
Yes.
little solar powers, little
There are
bell.
many
Oh my
kinds.
God,
Good
they're
point.
Yeah,
great,
there are many
yeah.
kinds.
Because you don't know if electricity is gonna work.
Well,
so
that's
you know what I
right,
mean?
right.
So,
And
it's
then,
another
so
option.
also a pad of paper and a pen, extremely important to write down important information for all sorts of reasons.
Okay.
Okay, and then also if somebody takes some medication, talking with their doctor, explaining to their doctor that they're looking to put together a go kit, and talking with the doctor and finding out about maybe a supply of their own medications that can be in their go kit for those times
Yeah.
of emergency.
Especially someone who's insulin dependent.
Yeah, something like
That's
that,
just
yes.
one example, but
That-
yeah. it's
Yeah,
an
there are
important
many
one.
examples.
Oh, sure.
Right. And then also, I wear eyeglasses, and I think it's important that for folks that do wear eyeglasses or contacts to have another pair of glasses, a second pair of glasses or additional contact lenses that might be helpful to have. And then I have a few documents here. So, well, the first thing I have is an emergency preparedness guide
Oh, nice.
with some additional information in here, and this is available at Ready.pa.gov
Okay.
Okay.
as well. But in addition to that, I think it's also important that during times of emergencies or disasters, to have maybe a book or some reading material or a card game or something for those times of trying to relax and sort of have some downtime from the actual emergency that's going on. And so this is the reading material that I put in my go kit, but anybody, but other folks can put books in their, a book or a couple of books in their go kit too, or a little card game or something like that. Some of the other things that I have here, an envelope with possibly, that can be, some money can be put in here. Depending on whether the ATM machines are working, things like that. And just having a little bit of extra money in here may be helpful, some coins as well. And then I have a Ziploc bag, and Ziploc bags, again, are very useful to keep things dry and everything else. So just a spare Ziploc bag or two, different sizes, things like that can be very helpful.
People think about weather-related, disasters or emergencies, but we don't often think about mass cyber attacks too.
Yeah.
So
That could make getting money really difficult, that kind of thing. Yeah.
absolutely, in emergency management, we look at three types of threats or hazards. We look at natural hazards, like what we were just speaking about with the weather events. We look at technological hazards, whether that just be a power outage or that be computer systems not working correctly.
Right.
And then also human-caused incidents and things like that as well. And within all of that, we have to make sure that we put together a go kit that takes all of that into consideration as well.
Good.
So some of the other things that I have here is an envelope that you can have important documents in. And I've listed a few: insurance policy, numbers, things like that would be important to have. As we talk about all of this stuff, we talk about having a plan in place. And it's also extremely important to have a checklist for during those times of emergencies and disasters with a bit more stress involved and things like that, to have a checklist that each person can identify what needs to be done first, second, third, so forth, so that they can follow that checklist, that plan during that time of higher stress. And then it's also important to have an inventory of what folks have in their go kit and make sure that they're checking the batteries and things like that. But having that inventory will help them and help people remind themselves about doing stuff like that as well. So having a paper version like this is helpful, but another idea is to have a flash drive like this and keep a flash drive either in the Go kit or on somebody's key ring and store those important documents, copies of those documents on a flash
Good
drive
idea.
as well.
Yeah.
Real good idea.
So, and then also having an emergency family plan or communications plan. And so I have two different styles here of that. One is a bit more on some cardstock or heavier paper, and one is just on regular copy paper. And having information on here, emergency contact information, doctors' phone numbers, neighbors' phone numbers that would be part of a support system. It's important when building out a plan to have a support system in place and knowing those phone numbers. And so having that in a protective cover like this would help keep things out of the weather elements as well. So all of these items are part of the foundational concept of putting together an individual or family preparedness kit, but additional items and additional supplies and equipment ideas are also available, and two websites that those are available on are Ready.gov and also Ready.pa.gov. And more extensive lists, again, individualizing this, personalizing this to somebody's specific needs and concerns as to what would be needed during an emergency or disaster is extremely important to include in an emergency kit.
And I wanted to say something on that, like also this stuff is for everyone who needs it, but also you need to think about yourself. Like we're in wheelchairs, we might need like an extra pair of like underwear, clothes, socks, things like that.
Or certain supplies, yeah,
Right, yeah,
definitely.
so that's something we need to learn about this, but also know that we also need to remember our own safety concerns that we need to bring along too. So I think that's a great like segue into that, so I thank you for that.
Yes,
this is a foundational
Yes.
thing. You can tailor it and add things to it, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and so speaking about, some of that type of stuff, if somebody's in a motorized scooter or wheelchair, having an extra battery or extra ways to deal, with power consumption concern as well, and things like that as well. And so, one of the best ways to become more comfortable with getting prepared for emergencies and disasters is to not only have a plan and have a kit, but train to that plan, exercise that plan with a support system. So those folks that you list out on an emergency communications plan, have those conversations with those folks, explain that you want to practice this, and so that practice then becomes not only part of the individual or family's routine, but it becomes part of the routine of that support system, and knowing who to include in that support system, how they're contacted and when they're contacted, and also if somebody should be on that, included in that support system, but may not be, that's a really good way to determine that and figure that out ahead of an emergency or a disaster, so that plan and those contact numbers and those names can be adjusted ahead of an emergency or a disaster.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it'd be great to have drills.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
it's a great idea, and having a family drill or a drill with your support system that you put in place for each individual or family, even if that's just a discussion-based drill.
If you live in an apartment, I would ask your the building people, do you have a plan, and can we have one in place? Can we practice it so we're not like all running around like
That's
we
a good,
do?
very good
I think
idea.
that every apartment place should have a scheduled, we're gonna practice what's gonna happen in a fire. Like
Absolutely.
you would do it at an office, you could do it at school, well, why don't you do it at your apartments as well?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
because some people, depending on your disability, some people have their own homes, but many people with serious disabilities live in apartment complexes, or they live in high rises. So it's good to talk to people within that, what is the plan?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If I'm on the 6th floor and the elevator's down, now what?
Yep.
Right,
Yeah.
and having those conversations and putting those plans into place ahead of time will hopefully aid in making that situation a little bit easier at the time of the emergency, but it also incorporates, again, more of that whole community approach where those conversations are then branching out into larger discussions with community folks and organizations as well.
I mean, it's the same old thing, you know, an emergency happens to everyone else except me. And we don't think about it because, you know, that kind of, but being prepared is so important.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that individual and family preparedness is really a key component of helping not only the individual and the family, but helping the community be resilient from disasters and different emergencies that go on as well. And so it's everybody doing their part, us on our side of emergency management doing our part, but also individuals and families doing their part to be prepared during a disaster or an emergency, helps that entire link come together a bit better as well.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. Again, this is Dan Lowenheim, and a lot of valuable information. So we thank you so much for coming on and giving us some things to think about that I know I wouldn't have thought about some of this stuff.
Definitely a big discussion starter for a lot of these things, and I don't think a lot of people even thought about, I didn't even know I should have a list of people I should talk to and let them know, hey, this happens if I'm in some kind of emergency. So
right, and that's exactly it. So I guess in closing, what I would say is that these discussions that we're having today and talking about a plan, talking about preparedness, talking about a preparedness kit or a go kit or a go bag is really the beginning of that discussion. And these discussions need to continue and that dialogue needs to continue beyond just putting a kit together. And it's important throughout the entire community to have those discussions. So, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Again, he is from the Department of Public Safety, and a lot of good info today, so thank you very much.
All right, we'll see you guys later.
Well, one
more thing, I forgot. Go ahead,
see,
I forgot.
she's always forgetting.
I'm sorry.
She likes to hog all the limelight. No, next week, folks, we're gonna have a great show. We're gonna be talking about the Special Olympics.
Yes.
And we are actually going to have an athlete on. So we are excited about it, and tune in next week. That will be August 9th.
Yes.
So I am Rob.
I'm Maria.
All right.
Thank you, Dan, for coming.
You bet.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.